Hello guys, this is Christy2708 and I am going to make this video about reviewing the N2 Pro 60% keyboard with Gateron Browns. As you can see, it's a little bit dirty keyboard, but it is the one that has been lent over by a generous person for me to try out. Now, this keyboard, I will be reviewing it first as a keyboard on itself, and then I'll be reviewing the switches themselves while typing, by doing a typing demonstration, and then by also playing some OSU. So first, let's talk about the keyboard a little bit. So as you can see, the N Pro is a bit on the tiny side. I would say it's quite actually very portable. Like, it doesn't have any function keys, it doesn't have any numpad, any nav cluster. It has only the bare bones minimum which you need to survive and to be able to type anything on your PC. So that being said, some people might find it frustrating that they lack function keys, like, I don't know, for example, when you're trying to alt tab out, it does have a tab over here, but if you're trying to make a complex function, like, let's say for example you want to alt F4, there is no F4, so what you will need to do is press down function key to do the Alt F4 combination, which might be a little bit complex, and you might do some finger stretching to make those specific combinations. However, it does reduce the size of the overall keyboard, and it does look pretty small, and it does save up a lot of desk space, in my honest opinion, which is for some people quite necessary if they have a small desk setup, if they do not have much space to work with. This is a quite good get, because the 60% might resolve some of the issues that people might have with a full-sized keyboard, and plus they can put the mouse much closer to their keyboard, since it also lacks the nav cluster and the numpad keys. Alright, that being said, the keyboard itself sports a USB Type-C connector right here at the top, and it also supports connectivity over Bluetooth via a toggle on the back of the keyboard, which is quite impressive. I have tested the keyboard by trying to connect it to the phone, and it works surprisingly well. The delay of the actuation of the keys are actually quite good. I would say down to the size of a 10 milliseconds at best of actuation delay. That's not that much actually for being a Bluetooth compatible keyboard. Now, as for the build quality, it's built of a aluminum frame, so it's quite sturdy. I don't know if you can actually feel it. It looks like plastic, but this is actually some sort of coated metal, which looks like plastic, but it does not feel like plastic. The keyboards and the keycaps themselves are ABS coated. They are also allowing for backlighting. It does have backlighting via a software solution. It does not come with its own like, it does not have onboard memory profiles, so you will have to configure lighting and all sorts of other settings via its own software inside the keyboard. But the software solution is pretty versatile, and it is pretty well coded, and in my experience, I didn't have any sort of problems when I was needing to assign sort of different functions to each and every key, because some things might get frustrating, like the lack of navigation keys might be discomforting for some people. However, it is pretty easy to circumvent that by making macros of sorts and using them on specific keys, which the software allows you to soften up that factor, which I will show you in the software. And let's plug it in to see how the keyboard actually looks like when plugged in. As you can see, I used a USB-C cable to plug the keyboard in right here, and well, it does function like just a regular keyboard. I mean, if I'm trying to type something on the key, on the keyboard itself, it's going to show up over here. Although, as I said, here I'm going to type something. Oh, hang on, focus. Damn you, focus. Okay. As you can see, I am typing on the keyboard and it does register, so it doesn't turn on the lights by itself. So that is something that the software does for you, and that's the next thing that I am going to discuss, the software itself. Alright, and as you can see, I am already in the keyboard software. I have already went and downloaded it and installed it. It's called ObinsLab. Just type ObinsLab and it's going to direct you to the page where you can download ObinsKit, which is designed specifically for N2 Pro, and it's their proprietary software. It's their proprietary software solution, and as you can see, it shows up as already connected. And if it does not show up as connected, you should probably see if the connection with a USB-C cable is proper, especially if it fits, because not all USB-Cs might fit, although I am pretty sure that any phone charger type of USB Type-C is going to fit. Alright, so let's go into the software and see what it greets us with. And as you can see right away, it shows us the information about the keyboard. It shows us as its N2 Pro, its battery of it's being at 100%, which is quite useful if you want to see how charged your keyboard is, because it does have a Bluetooth mode, as I have shown you with the switch on the back. So you have to keep that in mind, that it also has its own internal battery, which you can use with any Bluetooth device. Any device that supports Bluetooth is going to support this keyboard. It shows the running time, which means for how long it has been in the Bluetooth mode. It shows the serial number. It shows the layout. I think you can customize it as in if you want it to be AZERTY or QWERTZ, or it's what I think that this button does. I'm not quite sure. This is for a specific function of the keyboard where you can assign various functions. Like if you want to have multiple layers, let's say you want the shift button, the control, the secondary Windows button, and the function key to act as your arrows, you can assign them somewhere in this I think I think it's in the macro tab. You can assign specific functions. Like if you just want to light tap it, it acts as the arrows, but if you long press it, it counts as a shift. So this is what this does, and this is exactly for that. This is the backlighting, which you can only adjust inside the keyboard software. Unfortunately, for some reason it does not come with backlighting already turned on, like maybe some sort of onboard memory profiles. However, you can adjust the lighting. I will show you in the light tab how to do that. I think it's pretty straightforward. Macros, this is pretty obvious. I think that everyone who has a keyboard and knows a little bit about them knows what a macro does. It's not even about the keyboard, it's just outputting a string of characters that you type in for that said keyboard. I don't feel like I should go over this, because I think everyone knows what a macro does at this point. Now, Magic FN is something completely different. I'm not exactly sure, as I didn't manage to experiment with this as much as I would like to, because this is overall a keyboard review, but it is also a I also review it for also and how it feels compared to other keyboards. This is one video of a long-ish series. About 5 videos in total are going to come around. This is one of them. However, I did not have any time to experience with Magic FN or what this actually does. If I were to look it up, I think it basically has to do with the thing that you have 2 separate function buttons, and there is also the magic function on the caps lock. So if you press the caps lock, I think what this does is basically it counts as the function key being already pressed down, like having the caps lock enabled. Oh look, it turned itself on. Having the caps lock enabled basically acts as the magic function being activated, and you can use the function keys for function 1 or function 2 to use the function keys which are on the underside of the keyboard, which I have already shown. So for example, if you select to make this function 1 and you have this turned on, I think if you put Alt F4, yeah, it basically acts as a secondary function key. So it's exactly as I said. You just hold down caps lock instead of having to hold down function keys. That's what this does. It's pretty cool, since it's a 60%, you have to work with so little keys on itself. Like, you don't have any function keys, any nav cluster, any nothing of the sorts, and you have to work around with the function keys, like the function control buttons, sorry, of which you have 2, by the way. It's on the underside of the function key itself, like designated FN, and on the other side of the secondary Windows button, which is, I mean, at this point, yeah, and it also turns on when the caps lock is turned on, which is pretty neat, actually. So yeah, we also have Bluetooth bind, auto sleep, it's for Bluetooth, and firmware upgrade, well, it's for downloading the firmware. And here you can see, as I said, the layout of the device being custom. Like, this is where you design what the function keys do, and this is how I said if you tap this, like if you just slightly tap it, it's going to act as a the shift key, the first function key, the second function key, and the control key are going to act as simple arrows just by lightly tapping them. That's how it works, and it's pretty neat that it does this, because it does solve some issues. Like, you don't have to press down function and like have to navigate with WASD to enable the navigation keys. So there is that, and then, well, you also have the QWERTY, Mac, and Dvorak, and for whatever other reasons you might have more custom layouts, which you can import, I suppose, and you can design your own. You can assign functions, what it does, what every key does. This is a very versatile software, and it's also pretty lightweight. That being said, let's move on to the light tab. Well, this is pretty easy. Just select the key that you want to be lit, all keys, gradual breathing, and as you can see, it turned itself on. I'm going to bring it closer because I don't think you can see it on the camera. Hang on, give me a second. give me just a second. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. And as you can see, this is awkward. I don't know why it did that, but it did that. And as you can see, it is basically breathing through all the colors, just like Razor's color shift or whatever they call it, or it's just color shift. You got the classic rainbow effect, which is pretty standard. I don't know why these buttons are lighting up differently. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I think it's because I know why. It's because it's on the Mac layout. It is whatever. This is pretty adjustable. This is a minor glitch, I suppose, because it did not work like this. If I'm going to try to... Oh yeah, it's breathing per key. Like, you can actually select which keys are going to be breathing, and you can select multiple things here. Like, you can select breathing effect, static multi, for example. However, something that you might observe is that the lighting is a bit weak, and that is because the LED itself is inside the keycap, so it's like a hollowed stem, and inside the stem itself is the actual color LED. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to enclose in the camera. So it's inside the shell of the switch itself. Come on, focus. And it appears as if it is emitting a bright light. However, I'm telling you that in real life this is a very dim light. Especially if you compare it to something like this. This is a very vibrant and very strident color. If you even care about RGB that much, that is. Okay, that much for lighting. I'm not going to go into more detail for lighting because you can basically customize it however you want with the software, and it's nonsense for me to go over it anymore. I'm just going to leave it as, I don't know, I'm going to leave it as yellow, and as you can see, it's just applying static yellow. It's whatever. Moving on. Okay, putting back my camera. Now this tab is for recording a macro, and basically how you record a macro is just you create a new macro, you assign it, and I think you need to bind it to a key. Bind to key, Q, and then what you basically have to do is go over here, tap record, type a random input of keys. You can edit the delay in the delay editor. Like, these are editable by dragging it around. As you can see, it edits the duration of the input. I think that this is the scale. Yeah, this is the scale of how much you want it to be represented as, and this is for stopping. Pretty straightforward. Assign it, and if I go here and I am going to input it, bind to key, and I think that it is going to output that exact character string. However, I'm not really sure since I didn't try to assign any sort of macros to it. It should be straightforward. Or I think that you might just want to assign a you might just want to assign a like, you can just assign it. I suppose it's a bit weird because I didn't see an editor this complex-ish, most of the software that I have used before either made you like record the string of characters, assign it to a key, and then it automatically recognizes it. But this is more versatile, like you can bind to key, rename, edit. I mean, that's something that you can do either way, but you have also this tap thing, which you can, like, just by tapping the key lightly, you can activate a macro, which is pretty neat if you make it to work. However, I do not have the time to make it work right now. And well, this is basically keyboard reacts to auto by playing a sound device. This is basically Sound React, like a visualizer for the keyboard, which is pretty neat that it's right here. You don't have to download any external software, unlike Corsair or Razer, for example. Which is pretty fucking neat in my opinion. So there is that, and that's about the entire. That's all you need to know about the software, really. Now let's go into the typing test. Alright, for this next part, I'm going to talk a bit about the switch itself that it houses. So the N2 Pro can be bought with a Gateron, I think it's a Gateron Red, Gateron Brown, and a Gateron Blue, all designated for the same color themes as is Cherry's own color designation. Gateron Reds are for linears, Gateron Browns are for tactiles, and the Gateron Blues are for, well, clicky and tactile. So this model of N2 Pro has the Gateron Browns inside of them, as I showcased in the very beginning of the video. So they are tactile and supposedly light. However, that supposedly light depends very much on the situation, on what type of thing you are doing with them. Because as I'm going to show you in also, it very much depends on the feel, on the speed of the switch itself, and how the weight of the actuation force needed is going to play into action with other types of switches, especially in comparison to the Apex Pro, the Razer Huntsman that I have lying right next to me. And I'm also going to showcase the Red Dragon Bar and the Corsair Strafe RGB with Cherry MX Silent Reds. However, for now I'm only going to demonstrate the typing sound, because some people might be concerned with the loudness of the switch itself, and well, that very much depends on also the backplate of the keyboard. It very much depends on the backplate itself, because the backplate also generates a very specific sound, as is with every keyboard. Every keyboard has a different backplate, and thus it creates a different sound for the same switch. It can sound very differently. You can have Reds in a Cooler Master Quickfire, and it will sound very different from a, say, Corsair Strafe with Reds, or a Logitech type of Red, because of the backplate on how it is constructed. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do the typing demonstration. So as you might have heard, the Switch itself is not too loud, the sound is not too bassy, it's not too powdery, it's not all that bad, it's rather on a bit more silent part. However, this might translate into a bit of a different outcome when playing also, and it depends also much of the acoustics of the room itself and in what kind of a room you are playing said game. And I'm going to showcase you how well I do while playing with the Switch itself on a more streaming map, since I am a stream player and I do favor Switches that are lighter and, well, linear, because linears are usually the lightest and I can stream 200 on them quite easily because I do not feel the tactility of the actuation point, which you can, it is slightly like you can sense it's there, it's not that striking, like it's as if you were trying to push against something that is slightly holding you back. It's not like the blues are more they're more they're more accentuated. I think I'm pronouncing that wrongly, but anyway, it's as if it's more striking. It stands out more than the Browns themselves, and I've seen this pattern a lot amongst many Browns. It's just how it feels. It's like a stopgap between red and blue. It very much depends on if you really like that type of Switch or not. It depends on a person by person. I prefer, as I said, linear Switches because I also had tactile ones. I had Outemu Blues, and I didn't really enjoy them that much. I mean, they were decent, they work, but it's not my type of Switch. They are a bit too heavy for me. So I'm going to demonstrate by I'm going to test play some maps, and I'm going to showcase how well I do. This is going to be compared most likely to how I'm going to fare with other keyboards. Okay, as a final conclusion of this keyboard review, I'm going to try and play a stream heavy map, which is very much indicative of the Switch performance, at least for me. Oh no. Okay, well, something that I might tell you right away is that browns feel like a heavier red. That's the baseline of the brown. They are pretty good for typing, they feel quite well. They're not too heavy, they have a slight tactile bump. However, when it comes to playing also, they do feel like a bit heavier red, but that might also be due from the fact that I think that the Gateron Browns are 50 grams instead of 45 grams like the Cherry MX Browns. I might be wrong, but if I'm going to check the Gateron Browns spec sheet, I think that they are 5 grams more heavy. Yeah, they have like 50-ish grams of actuation force needed as opposed to 45 of the 45 from Cherry. That being said, it's not a bad switch. Like I couldn't see why some people might want to switch to this switch. I'm going to play one more map to showcase how stamina intensive this might be and stamina straining, because at some point I felt like my stamina was dying out, which is weird because I'm usually capable of going way more than 190 BPM, and this is exactly 190 BPM. And truth be told, I mean, it was also part of aim problem, but at some point I really felt like I was I was forcing myself to go way beyond my stamina speed. And as you can see, I have to use the function keys to access specific things, but it is not all that bad. Yeah, that can also happen. I'm going to give it one more try. That was not part of the keyboard, but that was just part of me. I'm a bit unwarmed up. It is definitely a bit more straining at first, however, once you get accustomed to it, it does not feel that straining anymore. I was definitely straying a bit myself there. So it very much depends on who you're asking if the switch is good or not. For me, it is not as good as linear switches or optical linear switches, because while it is pretty nice to the feel and to the touch, it does really feel like a heavier red, so it's a bit harder to get used to if you're coming from a red, which is a give or take benefit or a benefit or downside. I'm going to play one more map, and that's going to conclude the gameplay aspect of the for also at least, and then I'm going to do a final summarization, and that will be it for this review. I'm going to try something a bit more different. Yeah, so as I had thought, the key switch is much more lenient towards alternating, which means if you are an alternate type of player, I'm almost certain that you might actually enjoy the switch. However, for more stamina intensive purposes, I think it's a bit I wouldn't really say that I'm not recommending it, but I would definitely say that you should try it out. The feel is quite something, and it might strain your hand more, or you might enjoy streams more than usual. For me, it's sadly the first part, because I am already used to linear types of switches, but I am going to say that the Gateron Browns on the N2 Pro sound and feel pretty nice. I am going to give it that. It's a pretty nice looking keyboard. It's slick, it's tiny, it's compact, it doesn't use up actually almost all nothing in terms of space. It's sleek, it's ultra portable, it has also Bluetooth on it. So I'm going to go straight into the final conclusion of the keyboard. Alright, so this is going to summarize my review of the keyboard. The keyboard is pretty nice to the touch, it has a cool sleek design, it's portable, and it is quite the interesting get. However, the switch itself, I would recommend you try it first, because you might not be able to enjoy it as much as some other people did, and well, it is quite a different experience coming from a linear switch to a tactile switch. You can also see that this is just linear and this is tactile, because it has that certain bump, like it has it right there. It's not linear. It is a certainly nice feel, a certainly nice sound, especially on this keyboard. It's very subtle, and it's not as loud as this. This is much more dampened, and This might be a bit more helpful for people who do not like sound that much. They do not have any dampeners in itself. The keyboard does not come with any dampeners. That is purely how the sound of the keyboard itself is, with the Gateron Browns in it. So, what are my final thoughts? It's a pretty cool keyboard, compact, sleek design. As I said before, Bluetooth functionality is pretty interesting. Like, imagine you're just sitting on a couch and you just want to type something into the browser of your smart TV or something on your phone, which I might as well show as a final demonstration and final typing test that it's actually compatible with Bluetooth. And it has a pretty sizable battery, like 1900 milliamp hour battery is a pretty large one, considering most phones have somewhere in the range of 3000 usually, sometimes even less depending on manufacturer. But it is definitely a worth trying out. However, one downside is that some people might not be enjoying the 60% layout, as in some people might find it very uncomfortable to constantly be doing this to access the function row, or they might miss the numpad. I certainly do, because I haven't used it for that long, but I can tell you that I'm mostly a numpad kind of person. Once you get accustomed to numpad, you'll most likely be always using a numpad. That being said, the only other downside other than the size factor, which is completely preference by the way, is the price. The price for a N2 Pro is at about $120. So while that is pretty expensive, it might be worth it if you get it on a sale, since it is a pretty nice feeling keyboard. I have to give it that. It's a nice feel, and you can also get it with Gateron Reds and Gateron Blues as well, if you're that kind of person and you feel like Gateron Browns are not fit for you. You might want to check out the Gateron Reds. I do not have a Gateron Reds. Actually, no, I do have a Gateron Reds, and the Gateron Reds, well, the ones that are being used in the Apex Pro, are pretty solid. They're kind of the same quality of the Gateron Browns, but they're a bit lighter, as expected of Reds, of course. So that being said, I have to thank you, ZaSpy, for letting me try out this keyboard and lending me to review it. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. And following is a typing demonstration and connectivity for Bluetooth on certain devices. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And following is the said demonstration. Alright, now I'm going to demonstrate how to pair the N2 Pro keyboard with a Bluetooth device, Bluetooth compatible device. I'm going to showcase that with my OnePlus 7T Pro, and I'm going to showcase that it does indeed actually work with it. Alright, so what you have to do is go on the side of the back of the keyboard, and it has a groove in here. So all you have to do is flip it to on. I have just flipped it to on, and then what you have to do is press down second function key, which is basically the secondary Windows key, and then hold it and press one of the 4 number row keys from the alpha num cluster, and hold it for 5 seconds until the LED is flashing very rapidly, like this. Now it is in Bluetooth pairing mode, and it is going to try to connect to the hang on. There it is, it's flashing. This means it's going to try to connect to a certain device. And now what I have to do is basically go into the pairing of the Bluetooth thingy and tap on pair a new device. And it is connected. As you can see, it says hang on, give me a second, I'm going to go to camera. It says currently connected M-Pro to P1. So what's going to happen is, if I'm going to use, for example, hang on. If I'm going to use, for example, Alt and Tab, it's going to tab through my existing files. And for example, if I press the Windows key, which is right here, it's going to turn on the Google speech thingy. Open Google, and as you can see, it opened Google. If I tap here to type, I can just, hang on, I'm going to use the camera, and I am going to type I'm going to move the phone a bit closer so you can see. I'm going to type N2 Pro, and as you can see, it typed in exactly what I was typing on the keyboard, and I can backspace to delete stuff, and I can, as always, alt tab through different tabs that I have opened. So this is how Bluetooth works. It works with every type of Bluetooth compatible device. I think it's Bluetooth 4.0, so any device that has at least 4.0 or higher works. That means even the oldest bargain bin type of phone or TV which has a Bluetooth 4.0 is going to work with the keyboard itself, which is pretty neat. That being said, it does have a long battery. Excuse me. So yeah, it's a pretty versatile keyboard, and this is going to conclude my review of this keyboard. Alright, and as a final demonstration, I am going to start by typing and comparing the sound of the keyboard with my two main other keyboards. I do not have the Ultimo Blue switch on me, neither do I have the silent switch, as they are in a different room and I cannot get them right now. So these two will have to do for now. So I'm going to start with Razer Huntsman. Moving on to the N2 Pro typing test. And last but not least, I'm going to showcase the Apex Pro typing demonstration. Alright, that's about it.